Today on Absolute Anthem, I wanted to spend a pretty big chunk of time talking Anthem with you guys. We got some additional information clarification from an interview that Gameinformer did with John Warner, the director at BioWare, on Anthem. So I wanted to talk about that, clear up some misconceptions, or at least add a little bit of information to your pool of knowledge for Anthem thanks to that interview. I also wanted to talk quite a bit about the Interceptor and the Storm Javelin, do some personal speculation on those two javelins because you guys are just constantly asking me about them. In fact, I had a bunch of you do a vote just because I was curious as to, you know, what are some of the numbers like for interest within the javelins themselves. And we got, as I'm looking at it right now, 1.1 thousand votes. The Ranger is coming in at 18%, the Colossus at 17%. It's painful, guys. Painful. We need tanks out there. 29% for the Interceptor and 36% for the Storm. It's almost as if the less information we know about the Javelins, the more excited you guys seem to be for them. Well, I guess we know a lot more about the Storm than we do the Interceptor, but I think the Storm is just kind of won over the hearts of the fans at this point. So thank you guys for participating in that poll. I like doing stuff like that. It was fun to do that, and I had quite a few of you who I said I would count your comment as a part of the poll. There's maybe, I think, 2% of you out there, myself included, who said all of the above. They all look great, all look interesting to you. So thank you guys once again for participating in that. We'll save the speculation on the Interceptor and the Storm based on the information we do have, which is very little, till the end of the video. Let's talk about the information that we know for sure, thanks to that interview with John Warner. He did actually clarify and break down some of the weapon types that are going to be available in the game. Now, we've seen pistols, we've seen shotguns, we've seen assault rifles. We know that the heavy machine gun, for example, is going to be something only the Colossus can use. The heavy machine gun is something that the other javelins can't use. Pistols, however, are something that the Colossus can't use. We also see a flamethrower being used by the Colossus as well. And we do know that there will be sniper rifles in the game. At least currently, there are sniper rifles in the game. This is something John Warner was clear about in the interview. He wanted to really stress how difficult it is to actually power single-shot, high DPS weapons. Or I guess you could say high damage, not high damage per second, but just like high burst damage weapons like snipers actually is in games like this, even when you don't have PvP. And that was actually a big thing for him. He mentioned, you know, not having the PvP does make it a lot easier, but it's a difficult weapon archetype to balance. So at the moment, sniper rifles are in the game. A lot of you guys have asked me about this. They are one of the many archetypes we will be seeing, and who knows, there may be more beyond that. These were just the things that, again, have been confirmed. We can add sniper rifles to that list. They also talked a little bit about weapon scaling, the idea that you won't be bringing up a weapon you get at level 10 once you hit endgame. We're going to be tossing away a lot of weapons as we get to max level in the game, to the endgame or elder game content as they're calling it. At that point, I imagine we'll be chasing legendary weapons and probably mods to make those weapons better, but you're not going to have any systems in the game, at least not right now or at launch as it seems, that allow you to bring up old weapons and make them as powerful as the weapons you'll get in the late game. So again, just some clarification there. Now, a lot of you have been asking me about how the whole customization, upgrade, cosmetic system is going to work for the Javelin. This is something that the team kept talking about, but I don't think they ever realized like the answer that people wanted to get, not so much the fact that they didn't want to give one. John talked quite a bit about this in the Gameinformer interview, saying that cosmetics will actually refer to helmets, gauntlets, you know, bits and pieces of the armor that change its visual appearance. Now, this is something we've seen displayed in just about all the footage we've seen for the game at this point. Even back in the E3 2017 demonstration, we see two Ranger Javelins that have very different helmets. In the case of the EA Play demo, we see two Colossus that have different helmets that have a different style to them, as well as different paint jobs. When it comes to the things that are going to affect your gear score and power, those are going to come in the form of perks, abilities, actual javelin weaponry, and of course the physical weapons that you're going to wield themselves. So that's the direction the game is going to be going. You aren't going to equip a helmet and then upgrade your gear score through that. Helmets, cosmetics are going to work, I guess you could say, kind of like scarves and boots and pants work inside of the Division, is just strictly a cosmetic thing where your gear score will be affected by other things that you'll apply to your javelin to personalize and make them your own. Alright, let's talk Interceptor. Let's talk Storm. Let's actually start with the Storm because this is the one that I think we know the most about. We've obviously seen how the Storm can maneuver, and it's already been confirmed by Mark Darrah that the Storm actually has a hover ability, allowing it to stay airborne for a much longer period of time when engaging in combat. We see that demonstrated in the EA Play demo. The Storm's just kind of floating around doing its thing. Doesn't have to worry as much about its jets like the other Javelins actually will have to. So that kind of gives it an advantage to get off the air to stay safe, and that ties in with a lot of the references we've seen from other members of the dev team referring to the Storm as a sort of glass cannon. High damage output, high DPS, but potentially very fragile. We also know that it is a class that seems to focus on mastering the elements in some way, sort of elements of mysticism, almost like the biotic abilities we see in the Mass Effect franchise. How that's going to enable the Storm to utilize or deploy certain abilities, we don't quite know yet. Obviously, I would love to see a class that isn't necessarily just about high damage, but also about supporting teammates, maybe with buffs, debuffs to the enemies even. It'll definitely be interesting to see where the Storm goes in the long run. And one of the things we do actually see is that the Storm can wield machine pistols. That's another sort of subclass of the weapon archetypes we get to see inside of the EA Play demonstration. Now, the Interceptor is the Javelin we know the least about. Everybody just refers to it as the gotta go fast Javelin. We do actually see in the cinematic trailer for the game that they reveal that EA Play, the Interceptor sort of dash in, save one of his teammates inside of the Ranger Javelin from one of the Titans. But that's about it, right? The thing about any of those cinematic trailers that are made by third parties is you have to realize they're often given a lot of artistic license to make the trailers look epic and fantastic. And that is something that John Warner even talks about when people asked about the frost grenade that we see the other Javelins use. The grenade is something that only the Ranger is going to be able to use. That was all demonstrated throughout the course of that cinematic trailer through artistic license. We will not see other classes using the frost grenade. That is an ability specifically for the Ranger. So while I think they probably got the general movement capabilities of the Interceptor itself on point, we really can't take anything else from that particular trailer and use it as, you know, like set in stone stuff. However, both Mark Darrah and John Warner have referred to the Interceptor as a rogue type Javelin. Now, I'm thinking we're probably not going to see cloaking abilities. I actually really like the idea of the Interceptor sort of functioning like the Blackbird. You see, the Blackbird was the idea of stealth through speed and altitude. It wasn't about like stealth technology that made you disappear from the radar. I mean, that's kind of the direction we've gone with modern fighter craft and modern stealth craft, is you don't really need to go fast anymore because you can just trick the radar into thinking you're not there. So what if the Interceptor is more traditional stealth in that it focuses on speed to, you know, basically break free of enemy radar and enemy lock-on, and to allow it to intervene, to, you know, to flank quickly, to show up in one place, do damage, leave, you know, get the hell out of Dodge and end up somewhere else. I mean, that to me would blend well with the visual design elements that we see on this Javelin itself. It's very sharp, very aerodynamic. It appears to even have certain fins and bits and pieces to its design that allow it to have sort of a streamlined look when it's in that flight position. So that's kind of my personal speculation on the Interceptor. I'm thinking rogue, but not like stealth rogue like we might see in traditional fantasy RPGs. We're probably not going to be cloaking and then stabbing someone with daggers, right? It's just going to be more about speed, and maybe we'll even see some like ground-based dash abilities. We know that the Storm has some sort of an air dash while it is hovering, so perhaps the Interceptor can have the ability to dash while on the ground, to be really quick without having to make use necessarily of its thrusters like the other classes do to sort of move into a sprint, but instead to sort of phase dash in a sense, almost to just move very quickly in a very short period of time over a relatively large distance. That's my theory. I would of course love to hear yours and any other speculation you guys might have on the Storm or the Interceptor. I once again find it really funny that those are the two like most sought after Javelins. Apparently when you tease something and you don't let people know that much about it, they let their imagination run wild, and you end up creating two of the favorite Javelins of every single one of your fans long before they've even seen them functioning on screen in a playable sense. All of you Colossus mains out there, shoutouts though. There's only a few of us. But believe me, they're going to be calling for us when they realize just how squishy they are. They're going to be asking for them shields. They're going to be asking for that mortar ability. We will not be forgotten. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you have a fantastic holiday. Of course, if you are in the States and celebrating the 4th of July, your Independence Day, I hope you are, spending it with family, being grateful for the things you have and the opportunities you've gotten in your life, making the best of your time with your friends and family. Play some awesome video games, and I'll see you in the next one.
You have been brought here for a purpose, the most important task of your life.